Unfortunately, and regrettably, disaster sometimes strikes, seemingly killing and maiming the innocent and the guilty with little rhyme or reason. As if this wasn't bad enough, sometimes these disasters are freaky as fuck. Keep watching for 6 of the weirdest disasters of all time, with a dash of disastery humor, of course. The Aberfan Slag Heap disaster struck on the morning of October 21st, 1966, in the town of Aberfan, Wales. On the hill above the small coal mining town was a massive coal mine slag heap, some 111 feet high. For those not familiar with the term slag heap, it does not refer to the useless pile of girls on OF, but actually refers to the mountainous rubbish tip of waste removed from a coal mine. During the 3 weeks leading up to the disaster, the village of Aberfan was soaked by 6.5 inches of rain. In contravention to the National Coal Board's procedures, the slag heap was based upon ground softened by natural springs. This, in combination with the weeks of heavy rainfall, saturated the tip, rendering it completely unstable. On the morning of the disaster, a worker discovered that the tip had begun to subside around 10 feet. He reported this to the tip supervisor, but unfortunately, even the Welsh can't understand the Welsh accent, and the supervisor thought the worker was simply asking for a toilet break, which was summarily denied. 2 hours later, a torrent of 150,000 cubic yards of filthy slurry poured down the hill towards the unsuspecting town. The avalanche smashed directly into the local junior school, instantly demolishing the entire site and filling classrooms with thick mud, sludge and rubble. Students had just started roll call on the last day before their half-term break when the landslide hit. Frantic parents, villagers and emergency services scrambled to the rescue, most digging with their bare hands and improvised tools to try and reach their children. Tragically, all of their efforts were in vain, as the thick, heavy slurry made digging impossible. Most of the occupants of the school died after being buried alive, resulting in the deaths of 144 people, including 28 adults and 116 children. Families of the victims received a minimal compensation of only £500 per child, which is the equivalent of about $5,000 today, which is probably not enough to purchase a new child, even a Welsh one. The St. Pierre snake invasion occurred in early May 1902 on the small Caribbean island of Martinique, and is a tale of biblical proportions. On April 23rd, Mount Pelée, an active volcano about 3 miles north of the city of St. Pierre, erupted. By early May, the eruption had intensified, blackening the entire mountainside. The mountain was home to around 100 fer-de-lance snakes. Fer-de-lance snakes commonly grow to a length of more than 6 feet and are known for their unpredictable aggression and are responsible for around 50% of all snake bites in Central and South America. The bite of the fer-de-lance is pure agony, causing massive internal bleeding, organ failure, and often death to its victims. With their natural habitat destroyed, the snakes were forced to flee down the mountain and into the city of St. Pierre. Disoriented and searching for shelter, the snakes slithered into buildings, homes, and streets, creating widespread panic. The serpents killed about 50 people and numerous animals. As if the snake invasion wasn't enough, a few days later, Mount Pelée erupted again, causing a massive earthquake that triggered a tsunami, flooding the streets of St. Pierre. In a final, catastrophic blow, the volcano spewed a torrent of hot volcanic mud, which completely engulfed the city, reducing it to rubble in a matter of minutes. The city burned for days, and legend has it that only 2 of its 30,000 inhabitants survived. To this day, no one really knows what exactly the people of St. Pierre did to piss off God so royally that he felt it necessary to wipe the entire town off the face of the earth using a devastating snake tsunami volcanic eruption combination. But they must have been engaged in some fucked up shit. In any case, the eruption of Mount Pelée remains the most devastating volcanic event of the 20th century. The Erfurt Latrine disaster occurred on the 26th of July 1184 in Erfurt, in what is now modern-day Germany. Henry VI, King of Germany, was attempting to defuse a feud between Louis III of Thuringia and Archbishop Conrad of Mainz. It is believed the 2 men could not agree over who possessed the largest bratwurst. The petty squabble escalated to the point that the king was forced to intervene. He reluctantly called for a sausage sizzle to be held at the prestigious Erfurt Cathedral, so the 2 men could settle their childish pissing contest once and for all. News of the contest quickly spread, and nobles came from far and wide across the Holy Roman Empire to see these 2 sad cases slap sausages. Unfortunately, the king vastly underestimated German folks' love of sausage slapping, and by the time the party started, the cathedral hall was filled dangerously past capacity. The party had just started to really bang when the wooden floor suddenly collapsed under the immense weight of hundreds of rabid, raging Roman revelers. Unbeknownst to the merrymaking madmen, beneath the floor was a massive pit latrine which had been built for the monks of the cathedral. In an instant, the crowd was plunged into the filth below. A horrifying stench and screams of agony filled the air as the townfolk looked on in a combination of arousal and bewilderment. Those that died drowned in human shit or suffocated on the fetid fart gas. The luckier ones were crushed by falling debris. It was difficult to count the dead because it proved impossible to distinguish the average Roman nobleman from a plain old piece of shit. So the official death toll was estimated to be around 60, but was probably much higher. Since that fateful day, death by mass latrine drowning has gone down in history as probably the shittiest way to die. The Lake Nyos disaster occurred on 21st August 1986 in Cameroon. In the quiet of the evening, the serene waters of Lake Nyos exploded with a force unseen, unleashing a deadly cloud of carbon dioxide. Invisible but lethal, the gas surged from the lake's depths like a gigantic fart in a bathtub, rolling down valleys and suffocating everything in its path. Villages nestled in the shadow of the lake were struck by an eerie silence. Over 1,700 people, along with countless animals, collapsed as the oxygen around them vanished. Survivors recounted a chilling scene: lifeless bodies strewn across the land, livestock frozen mid-step, and an unsettling stillness in the air. Scientists later unraveled the mystery. A limnic eruption, also known as a lake overturn, is a very rare natural disaster in which a large amount of dissolved carbon dioxide suddenly erupts from deep lake waters, suffocating everything in the surrounding area. It can also displace water, creating massive waves and causing additional destruction. In the aftermath of the Lake Nyos disaster, grief gave way to action. Degassing pipes were installed to remove excess carbon dioxide from the lake's waters to prevent a repeat of the silent apocalypse. The Lake Nyos disaster is only the second recorded limnic eruption in history, and the haunting memory of that fateful night lingers as a stark reminder of Mother Nature's hidden dangers, lying quietly beneath her peaceful facade. The Boston Molasses disaster struck on January 15, 1919, in Boston, Massachusetts. But what the fuck is molasses anyway? Molasses is a sticky, icky goop, obtained when sugarcane is refined into sugar and has a taste as bitter as lesbian lemonade. To this day, molasses is still a breakfast favorite in the Deep South, and is drizzled on top of oatmeal by southern white trash children whose southern white trash parents are too fucking broke to afford a bowl of fucking Fruit Loops. Despite this, molasses is surprisingly high in nutrients and is said to contain more than 20% of the redneck daily intake of carcinogens. On that fateful January day, over 100 years ago, in the heart of the North End neighborhood of Boston, a massive molasses storage tank, towering 50 feet above the neighborhood, exploded without warning. The tank, holding more than 2.3 million gallons of molasses, ruptured with a deafening roar and unleashed a 25-foot-high tidal wave of molasses, surging through the streets at an astonishing 35 miles per hour, devastating everything in its path. The molasses was relentless, with the viscous wave so powerful that it overturned trucks, crushed buildings, and swept away horses and pedestrians like rag dolls. The stench of molasses filled the air, choking out the sun, making escape impossible. In the aftermath, 21 people were confirmed dead, and over 150 were injured, with many crushed or suffocated to death by the treacly torrent of terror. It is said that the entire town reeks of molasses to this very day, and is probably why people are always warning that everything that a Bostonian touches is sticky. The London beer disaster befell on the fateful afternoon of October 17, 1814, on the bustling streets of St. Giles District in London. At the Muse and Company Brewery, a massive iron fermentation tank holding over 135,000 gallons of porter ruptured with a deafening explosion. The force of the breach shattered another vat, causing a chain reaction and unleashing a 388,000-gallon torrent of beer that cascaded through the narrow streets like a tidal wave. The beer flood swept all before it, demolishing walls, crushing homes, and burying unsuspecting victims in its dark, frothy surge. Cries of panic echoed as the deluge engulfed basements and trapped entire families, with people forced to climb up on furniture to avoid drowning. The wave's destruction was swift and merciless, claiming the lives of 8 people, 5 of them mourners at a wake being held by an Irish family for a 2-year-old boy. Unconfirmed eyewitness accounts say the family probably would have survived if the beer had been a lager, but the Irish imbeciles mistook the dark Muse & Co. porter for Guinness and then attempted to drink the entire fucking basement. Afterwards, the Muse & Company brewery was taken to court. But the coroner's inquest returned a verdict that the 8 people had lost their lives casually, accidentally, and by misfortune, in an act of God, and therefore the company was not required to pay damages, which just goes to show that God can be a bit of a prick when he wants to be. For the next video, click here, and make sure you like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and stay disastrous.